Hello everyone. Today we are going to talk a bit on one of the renowned African American poets, Maya Angelou, who is best known for her series of autobiographical works, beginning with I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, which was published when she was 41 years old. Other works in the series include Gathered Together in My Name, which was published in the year 1974. Singing and Swinging and Getting Merry Like Christmas in 1976, The Heart of a Woman in 1981, and the last one, of course, All God's Children Need Traveling Shoes, which was published in the year 1986. Now, these autobiographies are important in the sense that it describes her life, Maya Angelou's life from childhood, the way she was raised by her grandmother, and the hurdles that she had to face as a teenage mother, her introduction to drugs and illicit activities, her life, which was of course in rags, and her becoming or her complete transformation to a show business personality, the racial and social activism she was part of, etc., etc., etc. Now, talking about her life as such, she was born Margaret Johnson on April 4, 1928 in St. Louis, and she was graduated from Lafayette County Training School and later on moved to San Francisco. And she was a person who had to do all kinds of odd jobs, became an actress, and later on became politically very active, especially in organizing fundraising activities in support of Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther King's and Malcolm X's assassination were, of course, the most shocking events of her life, probably for almost all of the African Americans as well. Maya as a poet, we get to know Maya Angelou as a great poet. Her poetry almost entirely comprising of short lyrics, which expresses issues pertaining to the black community, pertaining to the life and experiences of American blacks, the discrimination and exploitation of black community by the white mainstream. This is the major issue which she talks about in most of her poems. And most often we see that she writes from a female perspective. And I'll just give you the names of some of her works. Just Give Me a Cool Drink of Water Before I Die, which was published in the year 1971. And Still I Rise in 1978. Shaker, Why Don't You Sing in 1983. Now Sheba Sings the Song in 1987. And I Shall Not Be Moved in 1990. And of course the most famous, Phenomenal Woman, 4 Poems for Women in 1995. These are some of her poetry collections. Now, most of her poems, as I told you before, are about black community, and the poems are awakening in spirit. I mean, it encourages the black people, especially women. As I told you, she often writes from a female perspective. So especially women, she tells women to rise up and stand for freedom. We see the poem Still I Rise and Phenomenal Women, which are one of the best poems ever written in the history of African American writing. Now, just to get a taste of her poems, I'll read some lines from the poem Still I Rise. It's a very beautiful poem in that sense. Still I rise. Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Up from a past that is rooted in pain, I rise. I'm a black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak that's wondrously clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave, I am the dream and the hope of a slave. I rise, I rise, I rise. Now, when we look at Maya Angelou's poems, we see that she is not a pessimist writer at all. She is not a pessimist poet at all. But a poet who is so optimistic, who is so filled with hope, for the black community, for women as a whole, for the coming generation as a whole. Now, even in the face of despair and hopelessness, complete hopelessness, she finds within her an inner spirit, an inner strength which leads her on and on. And she rises beyond all means, beyond all problems. She rises up in spite of all the problems that she had in her life, in spite of all the odds that she had to face. She rises. And so here we're talking about a poet who has gone through a mass of hurdles in her life and has come out of everything with ample courage to stand and to face the world, voice herself first of all, voice for others, becoming the voice of others, voice of the voiceless, and helping those voiceless people, especially the women, the black community, to have a voice of their own. Now moving on to Ways with Words and the poem that we've got to study here, Old Folks Laugh. This is the poem that we've got to study here, Old Folks Laugh, which is written by Maya Angelou. And I'll just read the poem as such and then we'll talk about the poem. Okay. Old folks laugh. They have spent their content of simpering, holding their lips this and that way, winding the lines between their brows. Old folks allow their bellies to jiggle like slow tambourines. The holers rise up and spill over any way they want. When old folks laugh, they free the world. They turn slowly, slyly, knowing the best and the worst of remembering. Saliva glistens in the corners of their mouths. Their heads wobble on brittle necks, but their laps are filled with memories. When old folks laugh, they consider the promise of dear painless death and generously forgive life for happening to them. This particular poem, Old Folks Laugh, is a poem which problematizes laughter and problematizes old folks. Now, when we think about laughter, do we actually laugh? Do we people who are, we hesitate to laugh, right? Laughing is something which should come from within. Laughing is something which should come from the bottom of your heart, from the very bottom of your mind. And to laugh, you need to have courage. You need to be bold enough. You need to be daring enough to look at the world so close and so distant at the same time, so that you are able to laugh. Laughing is the spontaneous overflow of the feelings which are there inside you. Laughing liberates you. It lets you free. It lets your spirit free. Laughing is political as well. And laughing eases you of the pain and the trauma that life bestows on you. Laughing is very purgatory in nature, right? It is cathartic. It purifies you. It purges you of all the frets and fever that you have in your life. Now, what are we doing in our life? We seldom laugh. We frown, right? We frown. We look at life so seriously. See, we run after deadlines. We shuttle from one point to another. I don't know why. We run from one point to another for things that does not really concern us or are seldom so very important to us. What are we doing when we do not laugh? We fail to live, right? We fail to live when we fail to laugh. Now, Maya Angelou says, they have spent their content of simpering, holding their lips this and that way, winding the lines between their brows. Now, we spend the whole of our time simpering. We always have a simpering smile on us. a smile which is not genuine, a smile which does not come down from your heart. See, we have the first line. We have spent their content of simpering. Now it can be like that the content of your life, of their life, was just spent in simpering, just holding their lips this way and that way, which did not communicate anything at all, which did not have a meaning at all. Or they were just simpering, their smiling was almost like frowning. They were looking at things in a very disapproving way. That is what we are doing right now. That is what we do. We do not laugh. We just have a frown on our faces all the time. There is this winding the lines between their brows. Or it can be like content. Wise, the content of your life was just spent simpering. Or if it is content, if it is the meaning is satisfied. Now content, C-O-N-T-E-N-T does have two meanings, right? So if it is content, you are content with it. You are content with the simpering phase that you have worn throughout your life. Are you actually okay with the simpering phase that you put on all the day? Are you content with the fact that you have not laughed at all? Now these old folks, once they have become old, once they have reached the winter of their life, once they have matured enough, gained much of experience and wisdom enough, and they are on the verge of death, and from this verge of death, from this door, there is a door there from life to death, and they are actually standing there at the door, and they are looking at life, and now they are able to laugh at. They are able to let themselves out, liberate themselves, laugh. Probably when we are adults, when we are children, when we are adolescents, when we are adults, people do not expect us to laugh. Instead, people expect us to be competitive enough. People expect us to run after everything, except to enjoy life, except laugh. You laugh and people feel like you have some problem. Are you mad? Why are you laughing? Teachers ask you, why are you laughing? Friends ask you, why are you laughing? Your parents ask you, why are you laughing? When only laughing is what you need in your life. Now these people who are old enough, they're old enough and they're able to shake off all the restrictions that are bestowed on them, the constrictions that the society demanded from them. And now when they have become old, they are able to liberate themselves. Now old age is very advantageous in that sense. Because once you become old, the society is seldom bothered about you. The society is seldom bothered about your presence there. People always gaze at you when you're not old. When you're a child, when you're an adolescent, when you're an adult, people gaze at you. All the time, throughout your life, you have to live according to the unwritten dictates of the society. You are never free. You are never free. You cannot laugh. Once you become old, what happens is you have lots and lots of memories that you have accumulated. You have best memories, of course, of your life, and you have worst memories. Probably the worst would be better. And you reach the door, which is an exit from one room to another. So you are actually standing at a door. It is of course an exit from life and an entry to another world, that is death. And you have all those memories that you have accumulated with you. You have become old and now you are able to laugh. That is the great part of this. You are able to laugh. Now when we look at the poem, we see that Maya Angelou talks about the physicality of laughter. I mean, the physicality or the changes that happens on your body when you laugh on the one hand. And on the other hand, she talks about the emotional or mental changes that laughing brings about. When old folks laugh, they allow their bellies, which are of course wrinkled bellies. See, their wrinkled bellies probably they jiggle like slow tambourines. Now, the movements of the bellies, the wrinkled bellies, are compared to the movement of the tambourine, moving up and down, side to side. See, up and down and side to side. Now, when they laugh, their bellies are jiggling like the tambourine's movement. Tambourines move. Now, these old haulers, their bellies rise up and spill over any way they want. Their bellies turn slowly and slyly, knowing and having in their lap lots and lots of memories hidden. Lots and lots of secrets which are treasured. Memories which are so very hidden from the outside world, or treasured enough that the outside world does not see it. Treasured for somebody else. Treasured for somebody who are very close to them. Not for exhibiting to the outside world. So these old folks do have lots and lots of memories, experiences, wisdom, secrets hidden in their lap, and they are laughing. Their bellies are filled with this memories, right? With the secrets. It's they jiggle. You might have seen old people laughing and their bellies like move, the movement of their bellies. Yeah, the memories could be like the best things of their lives or the worst things of their lives. The memories that they have hidden in their laps could be best or the worst, but then they are able to laugh at it. But then they are able to laugh, liberating themselves at all the life that they have lived. Now she talks about the saliva which glistens in the corners of their mouths, their heads wobbling on brittle necks, and their laps which is filled with memories. Now she talks about the saliva that is glistening along the corners of the mouth. It could be that the memories are glistening, the heads that wobble on the brittle necks. It could be that the memories are wobbling and wavering, moving along. It's like their necks had become so, the heads are wobbling on brittle necks. Brittle is very hard but fragile. See, the time or experience or age had made their necks so very hard, but they are very brittle as well. So these memories are glistening, wobbling, wavering, or moving along very hard. But then those are very fragile as well. Perhaps their minds are very fragile. Memories which probably have hardened enough, and these hard memories, the memories which are so intact there, in that sense, okay, intact there, is glistening more and more with time. And these memories are again hanging loose on their very brittle neck or very brittle mind. Now she is talking about how old folks' laughter frees them. You laugh and you are freed, and you free the world as well. When you do not laugh, when you're so very serious, you're holding the world in your hands, right? You hold the world in your hands, you feel like the world cannot exist without you. But when you laugh, You free yourself and you free the whole world as well. Till then, till old age, we always wanted the whole life or whole world in their hands. You fight, right? You conquer territories, you fight. You always wanted to be the boss of the world. Everyone. We feel that we are so very important. We feel that without us, world cannot exist. We always want to be the center of attraction, right? We always wanted to be the boss of the world. Now, when you laugh, when these old folks laugh, they free the world. They no longer hold the globe in their grips. Let the globe free. They let the world free. Now, when you let your world free, you have lots and lots of best and worst things to remember. You can either be nostalgic of the memories that you have. You can treasure the ways that you have come by, the path that you have traveled. So their laps are filled with memories. Now, she talks about the only reality. When old folks laugh, they consider the promise of dear, painless death and generously forgive life for happening to them. Now that these old folks, they are nearing the only reality of life. The only reality of life is, of course, the death. Once they approach death, once you approach death, what happens is you realize the futility of life, right? Once you approach death, you understand that the whole of the life that you have lived was futile enough. Now, old folks, when they near death, with so much of wisdom that they have gained, with so much of experience that they have gained, they are able to, with the laughter that they have right now, they are able to look at things in a very objective way. They are able to distance themselves from the whole world, and they are ready to welcome the promise that each birth bestows on human beings. And what is the promise that each birth bestows on human beings? To be born is to die once. Now, these old folks are matured enough, they are experienced enough to consider the promise of death, and death for them have turned out to be painless now. It's painless. Probably life is more painful than death. Is life more painful than death? Now, these old folks are waiting eagerly for that promise of death, the only promise that birth provides us with. And they are waiting eagerly for that promise to be fulfilled with a laughter. They are waiting with a laughter, and they are forgiving what life has given them. They are forgiving what life has given them and what life has forgotten to give them. You have life giving you lots and lots of things, and life forgets to give you lots and lots of other things, right? You cannot have everything in your life. So there is a forgiveness that the old folks give. The forgiveness that old folks have with a laughter. They forgive life for whatever the life has given them, and they forgive life for whatever the life has not given them. And all the meaninglessness of life, all the absurdity of life in which they were once engulfed in, without enjoying the present moment, without enjoying the moments of your life, they are able to forgive each and everything that they did in their life. They are able to forgive all those meaningless details that we ran after in our life, without or forgetting to live. So this particular poem, Maya Angelou talks about old folks' laugh, reminding us to live our present, to laugh, to have a very genuine smile, to live a life in which we live in the real sense of the word, not the simpering smile that she talks about, but the genuine smile, the genuine laughter. She tells us to enjoy the present moment of her life. Thank you all.